Hello everyone, good day. So we are back with our lecture series. So today we are going to study about the chapter Joan of Arc. Okay, this is the last chapter of first unit. So after this, our first unit will be complete and we will head towards the next unit. Okay, so today we are going to talk about Joan of Arc. So before starting with this video, I would like all you students to go through the chapter once, read it, and understand a bit. Okay, so Joan of Arc, this is written by George Bernard Shaw. Okay, this writer is quite a famous writer from Europe. Okay, his books are quite famous. Okay, so this chapter is about a war between the British, like the England, and the French. Okay, so this war lasted for more than 100 years, from 1337 to 1453. Okay, so thus this war is also called a 100-year war. Okay, as you can see, this is more than 100-year mark. So this scene takes place in an office. Okay, in the office of Mr. Robert. Okay, Mr. Robert is an officer of the French army, and the French had almost been defeated. The British had almost taken over the whole of France. The King of France was in prison, or like not in prison, he was underground. He was hidden somewhere by the French army. So this story takes place between some characters, and they are talking about the freedom of a city named as Orleans. Okay, Orleans is a city in France. They are talking about the freedom of that city from the British army. So in this uh, story, the main characters are Robert, who is the officer, the steward as in uh, uh, the other soldiers of the officer, but below, like uh, from the lower rank, not exactly toward the rank of the Robert was the highest rank. Robert was at the highest rank. All the other officers below Robert are called steward. Okay, and then there was a girl, 17-year-old girl Joanne. Okay, and Monsieur de Poligny. This Monsieur de Poligny, as in Monsieur stands for Mr. As we say Mr. this, Mr. that. So in French, that Mr. is called Monsieur. Okay, Monsieur de Poligny. So this story is between these four characters. Okay, the talk they had at that point is this story or this passage. Okay, so starting, I will tell you shortly about briefly about the story. The story is uh, the story is about these four men. The main character of the story is Joanne. Okay, Joanne is a 17-year-old girl who wants to try to free Orleans from the hands of British. Actually, she tries to free the whole French, the whole of France from the hands of British. But currently, her primary aim was to free the city of Orleans first. Okay, so this uh, story is about how Robert asked his colleagues or the stewards to uh, about the free of planning to fight against the British. Okay, so the steward tells them that Joanne, she is a 17-year-old girl. She wants to fight for her country, may fight for the independence. Okay, so in this Robert, there is a small conversation between Robert and Joanne. Okay, so Robert here tries to say that he uh, Robert here tries to like interrogate first of all Joanne, who is a 17-year-old girl, and she is about her plans. How is she going to help the French army? Because Joanne was eventually not a soldier. Okay, she was a helper of the army men of the French side. The soldiers used to call her maid. Okay, the maid, she was at the post of the maid. She was the helper, but she had that thing within her that she wanted to fight for her country to free the city of Orleans. Okay, so Robert first of all asked Joanne that he came to know that you are interested in fighting to free the Orleans. Joanne was though Joanne was a 17-year-old girl, uh, She was very brave, as you have I hope as you have read the chapter, you can see that Joanne was very brave. Okay, so she says that she wants only three more men to fight for the freedom of Orleans. Okay, so Robert was like, who are those three men? So Joanne was like, Monsieur de Poligny, Mr. Poligny. Okay, who is shortly termed as Polly in this chapter. Then Monsieur de Mates, there was a fellow now named as Jack. Then Dick the Archer, John and Julian. Okay, these men she wanted to fight for the freedom of Orleans. Okay, so first of all, Monsieur de Poligny, as in Polly, was a officer in the French army. Okay, so she was quite so Robert was quite surprised to hear her name, as he was talking as Joanne was talking about Polly. The Polly wanted to fight with this 17-year-old girl. Also, we should take the fact in consideration that four to five soldiers fighting against an army, okay, the army of British, is quietly impossible. I mean, there is no sense 4 to 5 men fighting against an army. Okay, so there was 0% chance of success, but still Monsieur de Poligny wanted to fight because there was something in this girl which was motivating. Okay, we all know how people motivate each other. So there was something in this girl which was motivating. This motivating character of her also ignified Montier de Metz, Jack, Dick the Archer, John and Julian. Okay, so these all were inspired by this little girl. So they wanted to join with her. So Robert was like, "Oh, what are your expectations, etc., etc. What do you want from the French army? All the support." So she was like, uh, "A horse would be costlier. Like it will cost her some 16 euros or something." So Joanne was like, she never wanted an horse, but she wanted a armor is something that protective gear which soldiers wear. Okay, so so she wanted an armor, but she was like, I don't need an different armor. Any of the soldiers armor would fit me. Okay, and there are some soldiers who are willingly trying to give her their armor. Okay, so when we talk about armor, the armor of a male and female are eventually different. Okay, because their body differences, the armors are most probably different, but the size remains the same. Okay, so Joanne was like, any armor of any soldier of my size would fit me. Okay, so she was like, with this and other 3 to 4 men, I won't even need a horse to free the city of Orleans. Okay, so she was so confident that she was like the Prince of the France. His name is given in the chapter. The Prince of the France was also willing to give her a horse and the armor. Okay, but uh, she was not willing to take the horse. She only wanted the armor to set her city free. Okay, so this time is when before they were leaving for the war. Okay, so they had this brief conversation. Robert had a talk with Joanne. Joanne had a talk with Mr. Poligny, and also Polly had a talk with Robert. Okay, so they were like, Robert knew that this mission was nearly impossible, because obviously there, I mean, even if you talk motivational, but there is no fact that 4 to 5 men are going to win against an army of hundreds or maybe thousands of British at that time. Okay, so this was the story. So, and after this, as Robert was convinced that okay, Joanne can give a try, because there was no more option left, or otherwise they would have lost the whole of France. Okay, so he was convinced that Joanne should be given an opportunity to prove herself. So later, Joanne, Mr. Poligny, Dick the Archer, and other guys, they left for the war. Okay, so this story is about this situation where they had a talk between this girl and this Robert, where they had a plan to free the city of Orleans. Okay, I will let you know about the homework about this chapter later when this video is posted. Okay, thank you.